Speculation never stops once you're in the off-season. Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We've got Big E. We're joined by Justin, Michael, and myself, Rudo, to talk a little bit more Avs. Obviously, the other day we talked about the coaching staff quite a bit. We talked about vaguely the main priorities of the Colorado Avalanche this offseason, but I wanted to get into a little bit more than that. I want to talk about the front office a little bit. I want to talk about the actual positional situation the Avs have this season. So there's a couple of different things I want to get into. First, I want to start with you, Justin. Obviously, you covered that whole playoff series. You were in the room for a bunch of Bednar interviews. They let Ray Bennett go the other day, their power play coach. Realistically, where do you think Jared Bednar is on the hot seat scale? Is that seat starting to get a little bit warm, or does he have more rope to work with?
I mean, I would think the seat is warmer. I don't think it's hot. I think that's an overreaction in the heat of the moment. I mean, he's one of the top coaches in the league, and I understand that it was just a brutal way to go down, and there's so many factors from this series that added extra salt to the wound, from the fact that it was Dallas to the Mikko element. All of that adds to the emotion and to the way that folks are reacting to all of it. Yeah, there's pressure to go on a deep run when you have top players in the world. The hope every year is to compete for championships and to hoist the cup, but I mean, only one team's going to do it. Yeah. And I guess the reality is that means it's basically a failure for everybody else. And that's an oversimplification of things, but you're not going to fire 29 coaches in the league, are you? Like, I get the frustration.
Some people want it that way, but
yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe that's me being a little bit too, I don't know. I'm not trying to make excuses or anything like that, but I just feel like losing to a great team, whether they had a couple guys injured or not, on their ice in 7, there are a lot worse ways, and there are a lot more embarrassing finishes to a season.
Yeah. Again, I think everyone likes to look at things in a very black and white matter. And obviously the way that Game 7 ended is terrible. It feels awful, especially the way that it ended. But does the 13 minutes of poor hockey wipe out the coaching that was effective to put the Avs up 2-0 through the first 47 minutes of the game? Like, I think it's very easy to project a lot of the problems the Avs have onto the coaching when it's not necessarily actually the coaching's fault. I'm a lot more justified with their special teams. Like I said the other day, I think they kind of had to fire Bennett after that series, and I thought they maybe should have even fired Nolan Pratt too. So it goes both ways a little bit, but it's more complicated than people like to think.
Yeah, I mean, there was going to be some change that came from it, right? Like, you go 3 of 22 on the power play. Obviously, that was a major factor in coming up short. I don't know. Just the burn it down crowd, I think, tend to live too much in the right now and aren't necessarily thinking big picture. And obviously, I think it's fair to say that they lost the Mikko Rantanen trade this year with the way that the season played out. But that doesn't mean that the logic was not there or that the process was incorrect. Like, you can have the correct process, do everything right organizationally. If you don't make moves, you're going to get criticized. If you do make moves and you don't win, you're going to get criticized. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But like, yeah, when that guy that you traded comes back to eliminate you in the playoffs, that's tough. That's going to sting. But they didn't trade him to Dallas. They didn't think that was going to be the possibility. And I guess you could say, like, the decision to not re-sign him and the decision to move on from him opened up the possibility of that. Sure. but I don't know. I just feel like it reminds me a little bit of the Broncos situation with the Russell Wilson trade. That blew up in their faces. It doesn't mean that the decision was incorrect.
It's let's be honest about this, and I don't mean to like call anyone out specifically. Again, you're allowed to fan how you want to fan. If you want to live in the moment, fine. But a lot of the same people that are talking about Mikko having this amazing series against the Avs and playing super well are the same people that if Mikko played games 1 through 4 for the Avs with 0 points would have been calling for his head. Like, the reality is that is who Mikko Rantanen is. He's when he's hot, it's unbelievably good. And when he takes games off, he disappears. Right now, it looks like he might go on to win a Conn Smythe this year, which is awfully unfortunate from the Avs side of things. But you have to remember that you're taking the player as a whole, not just his best moments or his worst moments. I do want to move into that as well. I think we all feel pretty comfortable that Jared Bednar should still be here and should be the coach, at least the three of us on this podcast. So then the question is, what happens when you move up the chain? Where do we feel about Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic as the front office guys?
All right, this is where I want to take over a little bit. All right, we got time. We didn't have time the last few days because emotions are so raw, and I really want to take my time. You know what I mean? And I'm glad Justin's here because brings a different perspective different than you and I. You and I are every day together, right, Rudo? And you hear me complain, and you hear my thoughts, and you know what I mean. Like I'm talking about like complaints. It's a big word, but you know what I mean. My thought process on it all, and I'm going to take my time here. So this is not rumbling and mumbling and going around in circles. It's more like my take on this is, and Rudo's there, and Justin is just starting to know me, but I'm not that guy, and Chat knows too. I'm not the guy that says, well, if you didn't play in the NHL, you don't know, and I know it all. Right? Rudo, I need you to raise your hand, you know what I mean, like in court right now and say, you're right. You never make me or anyone feel this way, correct?
I solemnly swear that E's dogs are not off right now.
Yeah. But you see what I'm saying? So I don't want like Chat or, you know what I mean? I never make those situations, I don't know how to say it, but
you don't talk down to people because of your past.
That's my point, okay? Because I love Chat, I really do, and you know that. Rudo knows that. Even though I can't read, we make jokes that I can't read. But depending where we are, sometimes I can't read the screen. I can read, I can't see. But these are my thoughts right here. Okay, these are the way I feel. When it comes down to the way the front office is built. For me, the Avalanche are built in a master way because, first and foremost, you have the face of the franchise. His name's Joe Sakic. There's no you put a logo, Colorado Avalanche.
This got voted to the quarter century team, by the way.
Yes, and that was on my notes there too. Congrats, big fella, because he's the man. You're talking about production and day in and day out, and wow, I saw it firsthand because I played with him for years, right? And it's like amazing. But when you think franchise, you think Joe Sakic. So Joe Sakic being part of the front office, nothing's really changed a lot the last few years. You add in 2022 a guy that was a hot commodity in Chris McFarland, probably could have walked away, you know what I mean? Not probably, could have walked away, you know what I mean? And there's a reason why all of a sudden you're given the title or whatever it is. Things haven't really changed much in the last 10 years with the Avalanche. Chris works hand in hand with Joe. They all have their fortes, their strength and their weaknesses. They work hand in hand with their coaching staff. I commend the Avalanche for not just firing people and coaches, and I think it's a farce around the National Hockey League that coaches are there for 12, 18 months, they're gone. It's a carousel. It doesn't make sense. I'm not a believer in that. I'm a believer in continuity. With that, the continuity to the front office is massive. Continuity from the front office to their staff. And their staff, there's the amateur staff. That's a totally different animal than the pro staff. Complete different animal than their pro staff. Then you have your continuity with your American League, right? That we all know has been depleted a little bit the last few years. Again, you win, that's what happens. And I know we're complaining, and we could be the Buffalo Sabres. Man, I hate doing this to the Buffalo Sabres, but we could be the Buffalo Sabres where every year it doesn't work. This is a franchise that, Justin said it, it's win or bust. And that is a good situation. But you're not going to win every year. And I know you want to win every year. I'm telling you, I really thought they had everything to win this year, and I'm not the only one that thought this way. I'm not the only one in the hockey world that thought this way. I really thought they had everything. The way the gauntlet was that you had Dallas. I don't care that they had their best or worst player. I mean, sometimes Peter Forsberg wasn't there in 01, and St. Louis Blues were outstanding. The Avalanche whooped them in 5. I mean, sometimes you know what I mean? You play a different style when your top forward's not there, or your whatever it is, and some guys take over and some guys get different opportunities. So, yeah, I really, really, really believe that they could have won it all. I really think that looking back, and it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback when you're in those situations. So, there's some scribs in town, like they're Monday morning quarterbacking, and it's like, but that's what it is. And then the Mikko Rantanen trade and this and that. It's easy afterwards, but they're the same guys or girls that would be complaining. If Chris McFarland did nothing, and then they lost in 6 and 5 to Dallas with the same situation. Because I'm telling you, the way they were going in December, they weren't going anywhere. You know what I mean? They weren't going anywhere, and everyone knows that. So at the end of the day, you try something, you do something. I think he did it masterfully. When I say he, is the front office, and that's why I want to make sure that, again, those scribs in town, like Chris McFarland should get fired, then Joe Sakic should get fired. It's very simple, because the situation is that Joe is
right? You can't
hand
place the blame on one and not place it on the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if people think that it's not how it works, and that's not how those things are, it's exactly how it's worked. It's exactly how it's been working for years. And the title might have changed a little bit, or the last phone call, who makes it, might have been a little different now with Chris making the bulk of the phone calls, let's say, before they were split. Joe's still there. Joe sat there. Was it Monday or right? Monday. Yeah, Joe sat there. He was there. He didn't hide. He didn't shy away. Was he made aware? Was he aware of this whole Mikko situation? Absolutely. And if you think of a trade of that magnitude with a cornerstone of the franchise, a piece of the core, Joe Sakic is not part of this, or the ownership's not part of this, then again, I'm not making fun of you. Like, it's because you don't understand how it works. And that's why I'm trying to say, this is how it works. They're part of it. This is a group decision. This is a decision that they felt, and Joe said it again. We weren't deep enough to go anywhere and to give that kind of money to 3 guys. Now, Mikko, as a player, and Rudo knows, I say it all the time, I was a player. Then I was in management. Boy, oh boy, it's fun to be a player sometimes, because everything that comes out, it's always like on the player side. But, again, the reality is you don't really, hear anything. So this notion all the time of the sensation of that Mikko was shocked and he had no idea. And then you take an interview from a guy that was mad, McKinnon, after a Boston afternoon game at 12 o'clock. And, then you make it sound, guys, everyone's aware. Everyone knew that. And at the end of the day, as a core group, you know together what you're doing, where you're going, and they all put money aside. They all did. From Gabe Landeskog to Cale Makar to Nathan McKinnon, because that's the only way to win, is to stick together and try to make sure you're not really going for all the dollars that you can get. And once you do that, then you dip in together. And at the end of the day, Mikko's a good person. He's one of my all-time this guy's awesome. I've always said Mikko doesn't need Nathan McKinnon. And then, of course, those guys were complaining in Carolina, oh, man, Nathan McKinnon's not here. Look at him now. And then they were talking like that the first 20 games in Dallas, because he wasn't very good either. Oh, Nathan McKinnon's not there. But Mikko's a game breaker. Mikko's an elite player. The Avalanche knew that. the Avalanche wasn't trading him. And I'll stop right now so you can pay bills and we'll
Yeah.
get back to it. But we'll take our time here.
Yeah, we do got to pay a few bills. So let's hit that first, and then we'll continue this conversation. Look, we're taking a timeout here. You can also take a timeout in sports. Those are good places to take timeouts. Banking, not the place for timeouts. That's why First Bank offers you the tools and services to take control of your money wherever you are. With their secure, easy-to-use mobile banking app, you can check your balance, pay friends, and stay on top of your money anytime, anywhere. It's banking that moves with you. And here's something extra. Open a new First Bank checking account and you could earn $300. It's a simple way to kickstart better banking and enjoy a little reward for making a smart money move. So if you're ready to take your banking to the next level, check out efirstbank.com/bonus. That's efirstbank.com/bonus to learn more and get started. Better banking is just a few taps away with First Bank. Of course, certain restrictions and requirements apply. Member FDIC. Once you've started your new account with First Bank, make sure you're getting to your local Front Range Toyota dealerships to check out the vehicle for you. Toyota, an official vehicle of us here at DNVR and an official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche. So jump in with Toyota. They have 17 different all-wheel drive models, 16 different hybrid or electric cars. They've got something for everyone. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more. They've got it all covered. You can go take command of the road with a Toyota. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you, including Auto Nation Toyota, Rapo, Centennial, Corbin Toyota, and Boulder, Group Toyota, Littleton, Mountain States Toyota, Denver, Stevenson Toyota, Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Again, Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. Toyota, let's go places. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I think we can kind of continue the front office conversation. The thing that I would say, and reactionary, the Avs lost in the first round, and that's not good enough. Totally. Absolutely. But if you dig a little bit deeper, how different is this conversation if the Avs score one more goal? Because if they score one more goal in game 2, 3, or 7, they probably win the series.
That's right.
Are we really going that hard in on this organization for coming up one goal short?
Yeah. Well, and again, it's why sports are awesome. It's why it's Mikko. It's Mikko. Mikko, the guy, the villain, McFarland's the villain. He traded Mikko, or Mikko left, or whatever you want to look at it, right? And that's why it's awesome. It's fun. It's sports. Now, does it stink? Does it hurt more? Somebody asked Joe Sakic that. No, it hurts. We lost. I don't care that this Mikko rant. It makes it, again, like I said, sensation, right? Oh, great, it's crazier, but I want to get back to it a little bit. They do those decisions all in sync, and for the what's best of the team. I'll say it again. I said it back then. I'll say it again. Mikko left him no choice. Now, as a fan, did it hurt me that my root of those? Mikko's my favorite player, besides Cale Makar. That I always say Cale Makar is my favorite. He's the best player on earth. Mikko's my favorite player. Always been. I like the big fella. I like the way his demeanor. I like the way he is. I like that he's more, forget about on the ice, off the ice, kind of happy-go-lucky, and, Nate's tight, and, Gabe is the dad, and, it was a great balance. I love the kid. I'm going to call him a kid, because he's still a kid. He's younger than me. I love him. And if he wanted to be an Av, he would have been an Av today. Again, it didn't work that way. We got to stop trying to shade and throw stuff. And then, somebody had a great question in chat. I missed it, but he said, why didn't they wait till the deadline? That's a great question. That's a fair point. It's a fair point to say, well, they could have waited till the, till the Avs and, the trade deadline. Absolutely. But when you have those kinds of deals, first of all, not everyone can make those deals happen. Not everyone has the cap space. You make internally a deal. Like, if I'm getting an H's type return, then I'm doing it. Obviously, they got it. I'm using Marty. That obviously they did it. So they were, and I'm sure there was others around the league. Like if it was Toronto, or if it was, was it Nyes and something, right? I don't know. We'll never know, and we're not privy to those conversations. But those conversations were there. Now it's a hot potato, and sometimes if you wait till the last second, it is freaking tough to do. It is tough to do, and then you could have a thing explode in your face, or you might end up with nothing, and it doesn't make sense. And then you're keeping them, and you're saying, what I said earlier, you lose, and then people just absolutely crucify you for not doing anything, and you lost them for nothing. And look, it's 3 years now. You have no depth. There's no way you're going to win, and all that kind of stuff. It's easy to be morning quarterback, and it's easy
Wouldn't
to
you
crucify
lose
Chris.
leverage as the GM if you
Yes,
waited till the last
absolutely.
minute?
Yes.
Because now you don't have more assets to pursue.
Carolina
now
ended
it's
up with
potentially a
Logan
worse
Stankoven.
market.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. And then that's a great question, Justin, because then you wait, you might not get Natchez. Then you're going on the run with nothing. I thought the way it is now, Mikko's a playoff performer. I forget about that. Marty, not a playoff performer. He hasn't proved it yet. He wasn't again this year. He was very average, right? We all know that. But the way they were built, and then went down with Jack, and then Jack ends up taking the penalty. Don't think he doesn't feel bad for that. Is it a bad call, weak call? I mean, God, there's so many things that can go into it. But Jack Drury was awesome as an Avalanche, and he will be awesome because that's exactly a part of what they needed to do. Joe answered the bell last week. Yeah, I was part of it. Of course. Joe's the president. If you don't think that Joe's involved in those and it's like C-Mac all the way, then I'm here to tell you that's not how it works. And this is not condescending. It's just, and that's a normal question. And that's why I love chat. And they're talking about, the deadline. And Justin brought it up. And, again, it's a tough way to navigate when you're waiting till the last second. I can tell you that in 01, they made a bomb of a trade. Right? A core, Deadmarsh, tough one, buddy, tough one. They were in first place in the NHL. They felt that they needed to do that. Why? Because we can talk about that in the last segment. They had heartaches. They had what we're dealing with right now from 97 to 01. Disappointments. Sakic, Forsberg, all those guys should have been winning Stanley Cups. They didn't. You know what I mean? Until they found, the right recipe in 01. And then in 01, everyone was like, what is wrong with these guys? They're first overall. They're going to get, like Rob Blake for Adam Deadmarsh. The locker room's upside down. It's Forsberg's best friend. And you know what I mean? Those are tough things to do. And once you do it, if they work, they work. If they don't work, well, then, you might have a hot potato. But there's a reason why you make those deals. And then somebody earlier said nickel and dime. It's a great point by Chad. Oh, the Avs nickel and dime. Let me tell you something. Because I know for a fact, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history of the Avalanche, right? My dad was an agent for 25 years. High profile guys. The Waz of the world. Denis Savard. All the French-Canadian superstars in the National Hockey League. A lot of players in the Quebec Nordiques. Why? Because we're from Montreal. Quebec's right there, a 2-hour drive. My dad, when he took over the Quebec Nordiques, that was the laughing stock of the NHL for years. It was the Buffalo Sabres. It was a joke. But he's an agent. As an agent, what do you think he was getting every day? All the complaints from his clients that were part of the Quebec Nordiques. And one of the biggest complaints was there's no ladders, there's no hierarchy, like it's all over the place. Oh, then all of a sudden, like Valerie Kaminsky, chaos. Valerie Kaminsky, one of my great friends still to this day, love the dude, comes over from Russia, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's getting everything. He's got a driver, he's got the everything he needs, and where all those players that have been there they got nothing. And then his contract's bigger, and the guys that have been there, and it's like, what? And it's chaos. It doesn't work. Who was part of those teams? Who was the captain of those teams? Joe Sakic. Absolutely. And if you think for 1 second that Joel Sakic did not appreciate those things back then, because there was Forsberg, then there's Sakic, then there's Waugh, then there's Blake's, and then there's the guys like me right at the bottom. You know what I mean? Like, and plus, trust me, I would do it again because wow, what a freaking ride it is to be with those guys, right? And there is a hierarchy, and if you think it doesn't matter in a locker room, it does. And more so today because it's a business today, more than back then. But the meat of the thing is still there. And the Avalanche are run that way. And they've been run that way. And that's how you run it when you have superstars. And we're lucky to have superstars. If you don't think for 1 second Nathan MacKinnon is like, oh, I don't care. Of course he's going to say that. Joe would have told you that back then too. But it's not how it works.
Again, I think it's important to remember context with these things. Yes, you can think that keeping Mikko is the better decision. Totally fine. Maybe it is. There's a good case that keeping Mikko could have been the better decision. I don't think it is. But you have to remember, it's not as simple as, oh, the Avs just should have kept Mikko. If Mikko told the Avs, I will take the exact contract I got from Dallas from you, he'd still be an Av. Guarantee it.
100%.
I guarantee if he took $12 million over 8 years from the Avs, he would have been an Av.
Yep. That's it. And it's easy to say afterwards, like, but that's what I'm saying. He went to play. And then a lot of people will say, there is no way. There's no way the Avalanche would have traded Mikko in conference or in division. I got news for you. Once you set your trade on a target or whatever, you'll make it anywhere. A lot of people were saying that about the Quebec Nordiques back then and Montreal Canadiens. What people don't realize, and it's unfortunate right now because he's not part of our world anymore, but that would tell you they traded Patty Waugh for Owen Nolan. Quebec, Montreal. And people are always saying, like, not a chance. Yeah. But it just happened that the GM was getting fired the next morning when they were about to announce the trade. The guy got fired. So, that's why it never came to fruition. It was a done deal. So when you think of people say, no, yeah. And people think, oh, they got fleeced because he traded him to Carolina. Then it turned around. Hey, buddy, you trade someone. You know he can be traded anywhere. You know that. You know what I mean? And he can be a free agent. They probably knew he wasn't going to sign in Carolina. So they're like, okay, there's a couple places he can sign in the summer. It's Dallas, it's Toronto, whatever. We've got to go back and look at it. But, so that's not like they were caught their pants down. Like, oh, my God. You know what I mean? Like, so everything kind of happened for a reason. They did what they had to do. I thought they were masterful. And again, I'm not going to shy away from it. For me, Bednar should be a candidate for freaking Jack Adams this year because of all the reasons. And for me, Chris McFarland, ask anyone around the NHL, would tell you last week, Ace Pierce should win the freaking GM of the year.
I don't disagree, but let me go over to Justin then on that side. Are you in the same boat here? Is CMAC and Sakic's jobs entirely safe, or should there be any pressure on them?
There's always pressure to win if you're in a place who has expectations of winning,
enough,
right? So, yeah, I mean, there's a pressure to succeed, but I think Joe's reputation speaks for itself, that he is synonymous with Avalanche hockey, as Eric was alluding to earlier. Like, all of the greatest moments in this franchise history, what do they have in common? Joe Sakic was associated with them. So
True.
There's no doubt that his hope that every decision he makes is in pursuit of another championship. And that's what this team did. They went all in. And it is an objective gamble in terms of some of the assets that you're giving up for the future. But when you have top talent, like, it just kind of cracks me up how we always react one way or another based on the result. And I get it. It's a result-oriented business, but the process should matter. And ask Nuggets fans if they wish, they would go in a little bit more all in and try and, surround Nikola Jokic with better depth. It'd be a resounding yes. So I applaud that they were willing to be bold, that they were willing to put all their chips in. But as we all know, sometimes the cards don't turn up your way. They got a couple of weird results and a very funky series, and that's hockey, right? It kind of, just from the outside looking in, I've always been a hockey fan. I haven't necessarily been actively engaged in hockey banter online. It's a little bit ironic to me that the same fans that love to point to the chaos and how competitive the NHL playoffs are, oh, there's nothing like it. Anybody can win. And then your team loses to another good team and everybody acts completely like it's shock and awe that this was a completely impossible scenario to lose to a legit contender in a 7-game series. Like, there are other good teams in this league too. And I just think it's, as you said earlier, it's too black and white, and we're ignoring a lot of context with some of these reactions.
Yeah. I think look, we're not sitting here telling you to be happy about it. You should be upset that the Avs lost in the first round.
It sucks.
It's a massive disappointment, and it makes a bunch of the trades the Avs made either moot or disappointing, it cost them assets. It hurts. It absolutely hurts. But it's also sports where the reality is there are no guarantees. You try to put the best team together that you can, which I really don't know how much more Chris McFarland could have done this year. Honestly, like he was saying, even with the first round exit, I really think McFarland should win GM of the year. Even when you look at, okay, sure, there are some shortcomings in these trades, whatever. The Avs were headed for disaster if he didn't pull off the goalie trades that he made. Like, they managed to stay afloat around 500 because they are a good enough team to do that even with an 870 goaltender. But the Avs front office did a lot of good work this year that isn't just all in for the season. Blackwood is still here for a while. You have Charlie Coyle still on the team for next year. Marty Necas is on the team for next year, and then we'll see what happens from there. And I know everyone's really mad and says, I don't want to re-sign any of these guys, and we got to do all these other moves. Maybe. That's to decide over the next 11 months on what the Avs are going to do going forward. But a lot of the deals outside of the Nelson one I do think hurts a little bit unless you can find a way to re-sign that guy, but that's a topic for another day. There is a lot of these moves here that will continue to be under the Avs control going forward. So I do want to talk more about it, but we do have to pay a few more bills. So let's make sure we jump over and do that. We are brought to you by the folks over at Bet365. Make sure you're getting in with them and getting your bets in. Look, if you're dooming about Mikko, why not pick him to win the Conn Smythe? You can make some good money on it at very least, okay? Get your money's worth out of it.
At least bet a hat trick. Like, why not?
Apparently, yeah, you should bet Mikko hat tricks. He's been betting hat tricks all year. He's just betting on the wrong guy. So jump in on that bet with Bet365 and go bet on the Nuggets. Their series is tied 1-1 now over in the second round of the NBA playoffs. You can bet on pretty much any sport under the sun with Bet365. And when you sign up with the DNVR 365 code, you put in $10, bet $5 on anything. Win or lose that bet, you'll get $150 in bonus bets. So jump in with Bet365 and that DNVR 365 code today. Have a little bit of fun with $150 in bonus bets. It's just free money to mess around with, basically. Of course, when you do gamble with Bet365, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. And then, if you make a little bit of extra money, maybe it's time to redo your floors. That's where you get in with Empire Today. Jump in and get $350 off your new floors at empiretoday.com/DNVR. Go check out their stock. They only carry the best products, none of the junk that'll fall apart on you. They have the good stuff. So get in with that, whether it's tiling, carpet, or hardwood. They've got it all. You can even do it online if you want to see what it might look like. You can measure out your space and use their online tools, or you can get an in-home estimate. They'll come out, bring the carpet squares, and you can check it out, compare it with your room, with your furniture, all in person. So jump in with Empire Today. Get that free in-home estimate. You can get it scheduled right now over at empiretoday.com/DNVR. You can also get that $350 discount there, or use the DNVR code. Of course, restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/DNVR for full details, or always you can call 1-800-588-2300 Empire. Third period. Hey, yeah, let's go. Can you sing, Justin? I can't sing at all, so.
There was a time when I could sing.
Okay.
I've got some of those Kale roots on like the theater shit in the background, but
Let's
for
go.
the sake of everyone, we'll keep that in the past.
I need like one of those on the weekend coming up. What do you call that? Karaoke. I'm due for
karaoke
one.
night. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
We'll schedule
Do
it.
DNVR Avalanche karaoke for. Should we start a Patreon? Try and get some bonus content.
Yeah. I sang. Remember Sing Sing? You guys are too young. I sang at Sing Sing a few times. That was below the Chop House. I sang with Claude Lemieux one time. We sang, God, what's the... Jesse's Girl. Na, 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 na. Me and Claude Lemieux, we sang that at Sing Sing.
It's a great idea until I start singing, and then it's off the cliff. Then, so.
Well, I sang, but Claude thought he was good. No, was he good? I don't know. But we really thought he was good.
I want to take a look at the front office from the sense of, regardless of how you feel about the moves they've made, they still have work to do, right?
Yes.
As much as I would rather be in the playoffs, you're now in an off season. You have 6 UFAs and an RFA that you have to deal with on your roster. So I did want to talk about realistically where they stand position by position with you guys. We kind of led into it there right before the break. Goaltending is solved. There is nothing the Avs need to do at that position. We're done. If Nabokov wants to come over and play in the AHL, great. But at the NHL level, it's Blackwood and Wedgwood next year. Done. Okay, cool, great. Defense. You have Makar and Taves at the top. Done. Realistically, how much work do the Avs need to do on their defense? Their bottom pairing is now, at this moment, empty. You have Malinsky, who's an RFA, so likely to be easy to re-sign. You also have Ryan Lindgren as a UFA if you want to bring him back. But there's also a lot of conversation about the Avs needing to free up cap space, potentially that being one of your second pairing D. How aggressively should the Avs approach their defense? Should they really try and restructure that, or do you think they should keep it simple this offseason?
Go ahead, Justin.
I think it's a tough balance, obviously. I think the fact that you have the top guys makes you feel so much better, and it allows you to maybe potentially, I guess, not spend the same type of money you probably would elsewhere. But the big decision to me is, do you bring back Lindgren or not? And if you do, it's costly. From my standpoint, like just the eye test, I don't know if he was a great fit. I think the logic behind bringing him in made sense. You were trying to get bigger, trying to have, somebody that can match the physicality. I just felt like he disappeared for pretty long stretches in that series. And like he wasn't the impactful guy that even somebody like Josh Manson was to me. That I guess if you pass on him, you can throw that in the same conversation of, was that a move that was worth it in the end? But that's to me like one of the biggest decisions you've got to make here is, at his age, based on what you saw, is he worth the money?
I mean, the big question is, how much are you willing to give him, right? Lindgren is coming off a deal where he was getting paid $4.5 million. If he wants that again, sorry, it's not happening. You're a third pairing guy here, not a second pairing guy. I agree with your assessment. Does he bring something maybe a little bit different than what the Avs have? Yes, but that also makes him a tough fit for pretty much anything outside of his own zone. With the Avs is a struggle for him. The offensive zone is a total black hole. Not that he's bad, like as a third pairing defensive D, that's kind of the expectation, but it's a guy that has to be willing to fit for the right price. You can't be paying bottom pairing D $4.5 million. And if he wants $2 million, all right, we're having a conversation.
What's the highest you would go on him? 3?
Not even, maybe 2.5.
Is that realistic? Again, you think you could get a guy of his caliber with his background?
No. But at the end of the day, that's why, like Rudo, we talked about Nolan Pratt, right? Yeah, sure. Ray Bennett looks like he's the scapegoat, and it is what it is. You got to do something, right? And then on the PK, like Rudo said, I agree with him. Then might as well get rid of the PK too, which I agree with. But the difference there is Nolan has done a fabulous job with the Ds that have come in there the last 10 years. So, I mean, and that's the difference. And then now you're talking about, they'll have those conversations about Ryan and, what is the price realistically, internally, in their mind, that we're willing to go with Ryan. You know what I mean? And forget about term. What's the AAV? Is it 4? Is it 3.5? Is it like Rudo said? Yeah, whatever. Maybe they think like Rudo. I don't know. I don't really have a number in my mind right now. But
you're making a great point with Pratt on why they probably could be okay with moving away from Ryan Lindgren. When you look at what Pratt has done in developing defensemen for this organization, Ryan Graves, Sam Malinsky. You look at someone like an Andreas Englund, who is now an NHL regular around the league for other organizations. We're getting, I'm not Keaton Middleton's biggest fan. They're getting 5 minutes out of him if they need him. Probably not a 6, more of a 7 or an 8. But there's a consistent history here of You trust Nolan Pratt to get a guy to at least semi-NHL caliber if you're looking outside of the guys you already have.
And that's why I say there's going to be a number internally, like I was saying about the Rantanen. Like, oh, if there's a Natchez, we're doing it, right? You know what I mean? Like, or this is when we're doing it. And then you can't predict, is it January, February? You know, this is you can predict before July 1st. If the number is 4, whatever the number is going to be, there's a number they're willing to give to Ryan, I'm sure, because they liked him. And if not, because it doesn't work, so it's a big puzzle. But they're in their mind maybe, and that's where pro scouting comes into mind. You know what I mean? That's when pro scouting comes into mind. Is there another, like him or not? That's not what I'm saying. But back then, Ryan Graves, right? Are you going to get a guy maybe at the American League level you can sign on the one way that's borderline that didn't get? I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that you feel Nolan can get his hands on, and all of a sudden you can have a bottom pairing guy at $950 instead of, and again, the experience won't be there. Right? I mean, we all know that. Ryan's got experience. So, and if they decide to move on from him, you're going to be missing something. You can't have your cake and eat it too, right? You know what I mean? It doesn't work. All of a sudden, you would have $1 billion payroll, right? So, somewhere they'll figure it out. What's the number? Are they willing to go on? What's the marriage there? I think there can be a marriage if they agree on what the number is. And if not, they'll move on from it.
I want to ask Justin this because there has long been a war in the Avalanche fandom over defense and size. When everyone has their haters, right? Every player is going to have guys that don't like them, but there's long been a conversation of, are the Avs too small? Do they have too many guys that are too small and can't defend in a physical way? Or are the guys who can't skate well enough, a la Ryan Lindgren, more of the problem in the organization and the way the Avs play hockey? So I'm curious. And I'm not telling you the Avs are absolutely going to trade a defenseman, but if they are looking to free up cap space, which direction do you lean? Do you want the Avs to get rid of the small guy or the big guy?
Okay, I'm going to jump in right. Yeah, let me just jump in right there because and I'll give you the floor there. But that's a great point, Rudo. But it's like just look at the third. I'm not even going to name names. I don't want to. It's just the reality.
It's Josh Manson and Sam Girard. That's the small guy and the big guy. Come on.
It's the reality. It's the reality of the beast, right? You know, and I hate doing that because I've been there. Well, I've never been in those situations. I've always been the lower end totem pole, but you know what I mean? And I've been with my friends, and you know they're getting traded. Old fans, I'll tell you, Mike Ricci, guys like that, they're getting traded because that's who fits the mold of how they're going to go about getting some room. And up front, it's easy. And people are saying, "Oh, Wood, Colton." Well, yeah, I mean they're the guys with, yeah, they're the ones. I mean, I'm not saying right or wrong, like Miles or Colton or not, but they're the guys that are in that pocket that if you're going to decide that you're going to make room from the front or from the back end. Right, and then those, you're not trading McKinnon, you're not trading McCarr, you're not trading Taves, you're not trading. Now, are you entertaining the Tushkin? Those are different conversations, but I'm just saying, Lehkonen, are you trading Lehkonen? No, I don't think so. You know what I mean? But again, so you're looking at those third tier guys, right? You know, which is who we're talking about, and unfortunately, that's just what it is. And then I love Sammy G. I do. Again, that's selfishly. I hope it's not him. You know what I mean? Like, again, but you got to make decisions with what's best for the franchise. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, sometimes you got to make moves that you don't like to move. And I'll go back to the Mikko one. They never wanted to make the move. I mean, trust me. I saw Chris that day. He was absolutely a train wreck. Like, it's not, you don't want to make that move. And then sometimes, you can't have emotions and you got to do what's the best for the franchise. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, you aren't going to keep both of them, right? So that's a tough spot.
It would be tough to keep both, yeah.
Yeah. I think fundamentally, just from a team building standpoint, and this is just, I don't claim to be a hockey lifer, an expert. I've followed the sport my whole life, but there's levels to it.
None of us are experts except for E, maybe. But
yeah, but I don't. From my standpoint, and I've, been very, very involved with our NFL draft coverage over the last 6-7 years. And one of my philosophies is that if you have a strength as a team, do everything that you can to lean into that strength. There's no having too much of what you're good at. And what the Avs are good at is flying around out there. They've got team speed that is on par with, I don't know if there's anybody that's really on par with them consistently. Like there's some teams that can skate with them, but when the Avs get going, that's what really separates them from the competition. And so to me, I lean into that. So I'm probably more a Sammy G style player. Yes, you're going to give up some physicality, but it's the identity of this team. And I just think you lean into it. And I think when you start trying to do 8 million things and you're trying to not play to your strengths and you're not, leaning into your own identity in any sport, that's where you get in trouble, I think, because you're not going to do everything perfectly. You just aren't. Like, it's not a video game. In an ideal world, the goaltending is great and the defenders are awesome and they jump up into the offensive zone, but they don't give up any odd man rushes ever. And you have all the best firepower in the world. Yeah, that sounds great. It's kind of like on my CSU show when, people start whining about, well, why don't we have a 5-star quarterback and a 320-pound defensive tackle that runs a 4.9? That'd be great. It'd be great. Yeah.
I do want one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds awesome. Where can I find one? But, I guess to me,
They
like,
just selling
you know what you're good
those?
at. Yeah. Are they on sale this week? Like, I'd love to invest in one.
I think you don't have to look any further than the series that they just lost. When you look at the games they won, what are they doing well? Oh, they're moving the puck out of their own zone. They're getting through the neutral zone well. They're breaking out with their feet. All of the things that get the puck going forward. And in the games they lost, what happened? Dallas mucked it up. They struggled to effectively create passing plays and move pucks in the right direction. And it turned into a low event game where it wasn't enough. The Avs couldn't find a way to get through that well enough. And I think it's fair to go either way. I agree. The Avs definitely lean more into the skill moving the puck side. Personally, I would go that way. I'm in agreement with you, Justin. I think when you look what you got out of Ryan Lindgren, it wasn't bad. He, at least in his own zone, he filled his role, but part of the problem might be the Avs don't have the guys to play that way, and they needed to find a way to more effectively impose their own will on the game of playing a higher pace and skill. And someone like a Lindgren certainly didn't help with that. I do think the Manson-Girard conversation is a little bit more complicated because Manson has a little bit of juice in him. In that series, you saw Manson's legs do some decent work. So it's maybe not, again, like all of these topics, it's not just, oh, this guy or this guy, one way or the other has to be. But yeah, the Avs as an organization do need to build to themselves a little bit. I do want to continue that.
Teams with their own game, right? Like I know we got to take a pause here, but just play your game. When they dictated the tempo, when they leaned into what worked for them, and you got to credit Dallas too. They're trying to prevent you from playing your style. But if the idea is we're going to be able to play our style all the time, but we're also going to play that slow muck it up style and beat you at it, I think more times than not, you're going to come up short.
Yeah. There's a little bit of, I don't know what the right word is, will to be the dominant force on the ice or whatever you want to call it there that maybe didn't quite work out at times for the Avs. Anyway, we do got to pay our last round of bills here. So let's go jump in with that. As if you want tickets, which you can't get Avs tickets now, but I mean, I guess you could go watch McKinnon and Nate just at the World Championships.
Go watch the Eagles.
In Sweden. Yeah, it's true. You can get Colorado Eagles tickets. They're trying to close out their
second round series. Head to one of those games. I'm gonna have to see. Sorry, go ahead.
Dude, playoffs, they are crazy, man. It's wild in that building. Highly recommend you go check that out with Game Time. You can use their Game Time picks feature, whatever you're looking for, whether it's Eagles or, of course, Nuggets tickets coming right up here. So get $20 off with the Game Time app and code DNVR when you sign up. You'll get that on your first purchase. Of course, terms apply there, but their Game Time picks feature will save you money every single time. You can search for whatever tickets you're looking for. They'll filter out all of the junk, only show you the best tickets for the best prices. That goes for pretty much every sport under the sun, but not just sports. You can also go to concerts, theaters, movies through Game Time too. So make sure you're getting with them. Download that Game Time app today. Join over 15 million people that get their tickets through Game Time. What time is it? It's game time, baby.
Game time?
Yeah. And then on your way to the game, because let's be honest, food at the arena is ridiculously priced. It's not worth it. Don't get me wrong. I like food at arenas too, but it's crazy. Instead, hit up Raising Cane's on your way to the arena. Get flavor fast at Raising Cane's. They've got their hand-battered, cooked-to-order chicken fingers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, buttery Texas toast. If you're a coleslaw guy, they got that too. Not really my favorite, because I will just get extra Raising Cane sauce instead, because that stuff is delicious. It's the best sauce out there. Go get with them. It's their in-restaurant style every single day. You hungry yet? Go dive in with Flavor Flavs. What are you waiting for? It's Cane's o'clock. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love.
I'm going to get some extra Texas toast kind of guy. You got to make yourself a little chicken sandwich out of it.
I love Texas toast. Not a big chicken sandwich guy, though. I like my chicken fingers just as fingers. I'm good.
The way God is
Denmark, PJ? Thank you. I didn't actually look. I know Nate just plays tomorrow, but I didn't see who was in Sweden and who was in Denmark. But there you go. No excuses then. Go see him, DJ.
Rudo likes his chicken fingers with chocolate chips. He's a big chocolate
Disgusting. Like, I mean,
Rudo
I guess that's
hates chocolate.
Yeah, mole's a thing though, right? That's like a chocolate sauce.
Yeah, chicken mole.
Yeah,
it's got a sweet influence, but yeah.
I want Chad to know Rudo hates chocolate, so you
don't have to make stuff up. I have bad food takes in real life.
He hates chocolate. It's terrible. Like, I don't know how he does that.
It's like the trolls on my show. You don't got to make it up. I've got bad enough takes as it is. Just mock those ones. You don't have to make them up.
Exactly. I did want to move on to the forward side too, because that is realistically where the Avs have most of their work to do. 2C, obviously, we talked about that position yesterday. It's the biggest hole to fill. I don't want to get too into the weeds on how, why, and who, but Brock Nelson, off the rip, do you guys think the Avs should try and bring him back, or do you think they should look for someone else?
I'd run it back if you could. I don't know if you're going to be able to get a better option based on the market.
That's fair, yeah.
I thought he played pretty well in a couple games in the series. Quiet start, but I thought he got going there a little bit. I just think you're going to be limited with your options, and to me it feels like a maybe beggars can't be choosers type scenario. So if he's open to it, I'm open to it. I don't know if it's a perfect marriage, and I don't mean that like relationship-wise, just like, yeah, maybe you could find somebody that was a little bit younger, that is able to be an impactful skater for you. But I think it's just a tough role to fill, right? Like there's a reason they've struggled to fill that post Kadri.
I think, to answer your question, I think they run it back. I think they find a way to do it at the cost of something else, right? Obviously. Is it on the D side of things? I do believe, and again, unless it takes two to tango, unless he's got his mindset with, again, I don't know, and I don't care about rumors out there and all that stuff. I mean, it's a logical thing. He's from Minnesota. He's never played in Minnesota his whole career, and been in the East. Does he go back to Minnesota? I mean, yeah, that's a possibility. Again, I don't know.
There's a human element that you can never discount in sports.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I want to touch on something there. Somebody was just talking about Sammy G trading him to Montreal. God, it was right here in chat.
For Josh Anderson, 1-1.
Yeah, great. You know what? The Rev there. That's you know what? That's a great. I like the thinking there. But my first thought on it, obviously, I haven't been around, would be like, and I can tell you for a fact. Montreal Canadiens have a guy that's a smaller defenseman. His name's Lane Hudson. So they're not going to go get another small guy because most teams are looking at having one of those smaller guys. And again, I'm not bashing Sammy when I say this. Everyone knows how much I love Sammy. But yeah, if you're getting Sammy because you think he's going to be net front and killing, no, you're getting Sammy because he's an outstanding hockey player, makes great outlet passes, moves the puck, right? That's why you're getting him. But that's a great thought process on it has to be a fit for the other team too. You know what I mean? So it's like, so I know for a fact Montreal would never do that because I know I've heard them say, like, well, we have our smaller guy and then we're not getting other ones, right? And they already have like a Carrier that's not the biggest guy, and you know what I mean? You can't be that small on the back end. That's not a knock on those players. It's just that it has to be a fit, right? On a mixture. That's why Rudo knows. That's why I like Josh Manson, because he's different than the other 5 or 6 guys, right?
I beg to differ, Eric. I think they should trade all the bad players for good players. I think just all the bad ones, get rid of them, replace them with good ones. Simple as that.
You guys have successfully derailed me because I can't help myself, and I want to get into specifics on this. Sam Girard, career points per game percentage, 0.4. Josh Anderson, career points per game percentage, 0.4. One of those is a forward. One of those is a defenseman. And I get a lot of people like Josh Anderson for other reasons than production. I understand. But if you are trying to improve the offensive ability of the Avalanche, there's an argument that Josh Anderson actually does less than Sam Girard. So just keep that in mind.
I like
worth noting.
We numbers into it.
We have
want
good
to go
players.
Back to the 2C?
Yeah.
I 2C is what it is. I mean, the Nelson conversation is going to come down to if he wants to be here, like you guys were talking about, and how much it costs.
Where are you at on it? What did you think about how he looked?
I think he's a fine 2C. I would be concerned about term, though. He's 33, and supposedly he wants a longer contract.
That's usually how it is in that spot. Yeah,
of course. But you look at a guy who I have concerns about the way he ages and the way the Avs would need him to play as a 2C, heavy physical net front type of guy stuff. I would be worried about a fall off there. Now, if you're only worried about this next season or the next 2 seasons and you say, hey, we'll deal with that problem when we get there, fair enough. And no argument. The hard part for me is what you said, Justin. Who else you going to go get? Who else is out there as a 2C that will give you 50 to 60 points? Like, there just aren't a ton of options in free agency this year. Now, if you're trying to put together some crazy trade, go off King. I haven't looked that deep into the trade market, especially given the lack of assets that the Avs have when you talk about picks and things like that. My bigger issue with Manson specifically is you're going to have to give up something. And if you're not looking at that defensive side, realistically, money-wise, and I'm not saying the Avs are going to do this, I'm not trying to go into that, but realistically, the guy that makes the most sense to move off your forward core money-wise is Ross Colton. That frees up $4 million. The problem being that's just another hole in your lineup. And you would rather solve your 2C problem than your third right wing, but then you still need to go solve the third right wing later too. So where does the money come from for that? And this is the Jenga that the Avs are going to have to do all offseason is how do they make the money work? How do they not blow holes in their roster while getting better? And I honestly don't know. I'm not sure how easy that's going to be for them.
I think it's the toughest challenge, sustaining success and winning when you have guys who get paid at maybe not the top of their position, because some of these guys have chosen to leave some money on the table so that they can stay together. But that's the toughest part of this, right? Especially in a salary cap era, if you could just blow $1 billion, that'd be easy. We'll just sign a bunch of good dudes. But it's a wicked problem for a reason. You're going to create a different problem by solving one. And so what problems can you live with? And what problems do you feel like would ultimately be it's a little bit dramatic, but what will kill you and what can you live with? And then that's what it's going to come down to for the Avs this offseason. Are we going to be short here? Are we going to be short here? But you're not going to be a strength at both.
You can't build the super team like you maybe used to. We are heading into overtime here, so if you are watching on TV, make sure you jump over online where the conversation continues at thednvr.com. Look, here's a conversation that I think the most straightforward move the Avs have is to move on from Miles Wood. Not because of the player. Obviously, I think we all know Miles Wood is a better player than he showed for a significant portion of last season. But the reality was by the end of the year, you were paying a guy $2.5 million to be your 13th forward. And that's just not tenable. You can't have $2.5 million sitting in your press box. Now, how movable is he? How much is his value? Probably not good. But when you look at that conversation, you could, and I know some people aren't going to like this, realistically, you could buy him out. And I know that ends up on your books for 1 billion years, but most of those years, it's only $700K. That frees up over $1.5 million for you to give a little bit more flexibility. And again, nothing against the guy. If the Avs buy him out, he'll still be in the NHL. Some team will sign him and play him. But he just seems to have been edged out of the Avs lineup. So I do think the Avs have to do something there.
Yeah. I mean, God. It's going to be so interesting, you know? It's got to be interesting. It's got to be
How hard would
interesting
he
summer.
be to move?
I think it's a health question there for me. You know what I mean? Like, again, I'm not, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on our show. But, you know what I mean? Like, I do believe he was dealing with something all year long. Is it something that's fixable? And again, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but maybe I am wrong. And how long does it, is it something that's fixable? Is it something that it might take months? I don't know. Or I'm full of crap and, he just had a tough year. I don't believe so. But you never know. And then, it could be tough to move. So, I mean, you might have to, suck it up like Rudo said. So, I don't know. So, we'll see.
Look, if for the record, I don't think you're getting any value for moving him. But
you can get off of that deal.
Yeah, if it costs a 5th-round pick to dump it, fine. I don't care about a 5th-round pick to free up $2 million in space to go get someone that helps you today. Yeah. Again, nothing against the guy. I think he'll still be in the NHL. It's just the way the Avs cap works and the way their lineup is structured. He's overpaid for the role that he would play here. So, sure. Obviously, there's a lot of other conversations. UFAs in the forward core like Druin and that are things we'll have conversations about throughout the rest of the offseason. But we've got a lot of months of talking to do for 5 days a week. So we'll save that for the next show. Any final thoughts on the Avs situation here from you two, or should we get out of here?
I think we can get out of here.
Okay.
I am interested to see if anything. I don't know if you guys have I'm sure you've talked about Cale, but I don't know. I've been waiting to see any day now that like some report comes out about a wrist injury or something. It just seemed like something was weird with him in the stick, but who knows? Maybe it's nothing. That's where I'm at. That's what I was interested to see these next couple of days if anything came out there, but doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So
honestly, if Cale shows up next year and looks as good as we know he can play, I'll forget this series ever happened for him and we'll move on with our lives. I think that's where I'm at with it.
And it's not something normal. It's not something you probably won't see again a lot. But again, there was no results. It's not like he played bad. He had no results. So Joe said it the other day. He was a superstar. Sometimes it just doesn't go your way, and I agree with Joe. And that's why you need that, person in the front office that's lived it. Then you can, it's not an excuse. Sometimes it's just a reality.
Certainly not for lack of effort from Cale's part, I would say. There were plenty of good chances. It's just he couldn't get him to go. Andre made a great save, or he missed his target.
Yep.
Couldn't have happened at a worse time, but I don't know that it's sustainable.
Sometimes you're just unlucky.
Yep, it happens.
He's still the best player on the planet.
He's going to win the Norris this year anyway. So, and by the way, again, we all feel like Cale had more. He had 5 points in that series. Come on.
Well, he's like a classic example of the bar is set so high for him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for having me on, fellas. It's been a blast.
No, thanks for coming on. We'll need you more this offseason. So
yes,
we need the insights. We appreciate it. We are out of here, though. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out on another off day show. Back tomorrow for a Friday. I don't know. Maybe we'll bring back Free Skate Fridays or something. Try and do something fun since everyone's mad and everyone hates everything right now, including us. So we got to do something. We appreciate y'all. This has been the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.